Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about the fact that the Surgeon General is now calling for cancer risks on alcohol. This is something I have mentioned numerous times, right? This is something I've said repeatedly, and I've actually seen people try to argue with me on this. There are literally people who are like, "No, Jason, it doesn't cause cancer. It might be a liver issue, but it doesn't cause cancer, and all things in moderation." Well, here's the problem with that. All the leading experts in multiple countries around the world, so we're not even talking, oh, there's some conspiracy involved. Most of the experts around the world who study cancer have looked at the links with alcohol, and they've been coming back saying, hey, there's actually direct causation here. And they're like, we're finding that there is no safe amount, right? There is no safe amount of alcohol when it comes to cancer. And a lot of people don't want to hear that. And what I mean is, when they found the amount of alcohol that can increase cancer, it is less than 1 drink a week. I was like, what? Yeah. They've determined that the weekly intake amount that seems to increase cancer risk significantly and measurably is literally something like a few spoonfuls of wine. We're not talking a glass of wine. We're not talking a shot of whiskey. We're talking, it was a really fairly small amount. So yeah, literally like half a drink or a quarter of a drink a week, not even a full drink. Okay, we're not talking a full beer. We're not talking a full shot of whiskey, right? It's ridiculously small amounts, less than a drink per week. So it came to the equivalent of something like 1 drink per month is enough to measurably increase like 5 to 7 different types of cancer, like significantly. And here's where it gets worse. It scales with the amount. So in other words, you drink a full drink every week, it was higher. You drink 2 drinks a week, it's measurably higher and higher and higher. So, this is a problem, right? This is a problem. And so with the Surgeon General saying this, it is helping people make that more educated opinion, and it's one of those I've noticed people were legitimately unaware of. It's one of those topics where when you bring it up, people will argue and like, well, you're only saying that because you've had some issues with alcohol and you've chosen to be sober. And it's like, I've chosen to be sober because I realize how horrible it is, right? The health effects, the psychological effects, all of those things are terrible. And I've seen the problems it causes. I've experienced it firsthand. I've seen worse in other people I've known, cared about people who have worse issues. I've lost friends to alcohol, to drunk driving, to, alcohol abuse, all sorts of stuff. I've lost people to these things. So yeah, I'm aware of that. But the thing is, it's just across the board. It is literally a poison. And it's a poison that's addictive and causes cancer. And now we're seeing this being discussed, to where, keep in mind, people are going to freak out and say, well, they can't take. Well, they're not even talking about taking your alcohol. It's talking about, hey, we need to have warning labels so that if people choose to partake, they understand. Because up till now, people who choose to drink, they've heard nonsense like, well, it's okay in moderation. You have a little, you can have this, you can have that. It's fine in moderation, but because some stuff can be tolerated in moderation within terms of the health effects, but the cancer isn't. Like this is one of those areas to where the research has been coming back very conclusively. Okay, it's been very conclusive that and it's agreement. Like that's the problem. Like, and you're seeing researchers who are coming out saying, I'm not happy with the research, but the data is this is what I'm finding. Like you've seen researchers who are like, I enjoy a bit of alcohol myself. I like to drink some. I like to partake in moderation and I enjoy it socially. You've seen some researchers say that they're like, they're like, I'm biased to not want to see this, but it's there and it's undeniable. Okay, it's undeniable. So the point with that comes if people know what the risks are, then they can make an educated decision. And I think The warning labels, that's an appropriate way to do it. Look, I might have my own views on what I think about the legality, but I think at the very least, if you want the most freedom situation that can exist, it's to where you make people fully aware of the consequences so that they fully know, and they know that one drink a week is enough to possibly give them cancer. It will increase their risk. And then people can assess, do they care about getting cancer or not? How important is it to them versus their drinking even in moderation? And then people are free to decide, and then they don't get to be upset later, right? I mean, it's a case of then we can just kind of look at it and say, okay, but it's like people who smoke, like no one really feels bad if they get lung cancer because everybody knows it causes it, right? It's just kind of like, yeah, but you chose to get lung cancer, right? Like, you made that choice and it was an educated choice, so you don't really get to be upset about it, right? Move on. Everyone else just has, maybe feels bad, but it's kind of like they knew exactly what the risks were. Okay. But in this case, people didn't know. It's just like when we talk about anabolics and testosterone. It was like, oh, you have all these risks, but then now the research has looked at it more closely, and it's like, the risk isn't really showing through in the data. Okay, that's the problem. So then we could look at that. But by that same token, how often do we see that socially? Because if anyone uses gear, people are like, well, you were messing with fire, But it's like, but we don't know. We don't actually have data supporting that to the degree. I've discussed that in the past quite a bit. The leading experts are kind of saying, we can't really find the evidence we thought we would for the major health risks and testosterone, or most anabolics, barring certain ones. But with the alcohol, it's the case of the mainstream was not aware of the cancer. Those of us who look into it and follow it are aware because, who are anti-alcohol because we care, we want to know. Looking for that. But now it's the case of all the researchers are in agreement. They're in agreement, yeah, alcohol absolutely can cause cancer, even in very, very small amounts in moderation. So then if people are aware, then they can make an educated choice and go, well, do I care more about cancer or getting my, my social drink once a week, and then they can pick and choose. They can say, okay, I'm okay with cancer as long as I get my weekly buzz and it's worth it. And then they make a choice, and then it's freedom. And I think that's more than reasonable, perfectly reasonable. People have a right to give themselves cancer. But in this case, at least they're buying a product that will give them cancer, but they know that they're going to get cancer from it potentially, and they accept that. Right? That's how freedom works.